Hey, what's up? So this is a more like dense sharing here, and I don't do a lot. So different ideas came, and I wanted to express them. Firstly, the one regarding the dependent origination, how that there's an auto balance that happens for dependent origination to continue. So a long time down, half of your life was down, half of your other life has to be up. It's like, entire life is down, then afterlife has to, or maybe your life is completely down, but it was because of it, someone else's life was up because of your downness. So it's like a balancing all the time, but not necessarily in your good, not necessarily in your uh, benefit, but it could be in your benefit. So, right. So you eat the shrimp, right? What's the poor shrimp's point? Uh, mistake for dying, but uh, getting hunted, getting fished, right? And then you eat the shrimp and you become more alive or something, and you think you're somebody insane. So in that sense, like this auto balance is always like there. And what I want to say, like, um, yeah, there's this thing that's in the rockets. And it always keeps the rocket on target, keeps auto balancing by itself. Um, it's like I don't remember the name, but the Germans had it on their rockets. But it just shows that what this is, right? It's just balanced already. Maybe you could say there's a right and left, right? But then the more you go right, the more left has to be, and thus there's really just a bird with two wings. Just a bird with two wings. But you think there's a right wing and a left wing, and then you start to just you know, use the right wing all the time, and it just looks funny. But then the time comes and the left wing is like, itching to be like waved, right? So in that sense, that's why there's no duality. It's just a bird, and you're just believing that it's only right and left, and knowledge and ignorance, and life rather than death. But life is free to move in both directions. While your mind is just wanting it to move in one direction, uh, all the way in a certain direction. Or to say, I don't want to move in a direction, but then that's a direction. So it's just very toxically funny. But wanted to say there's just two types of that. Uh, Either the ego tries to do it, right? To create a certain direction, or life itself does it, right? So that's the two different things. So when some, you know, somebody tries to simulate rain by shower, somebody else is actually enjoying the rain while it descends. That's completely different. When the rain actually comes, that's real. You know, that's a system level, right? And other one is like just the time. So he comes from outside while the rain is and he's fresh. Someone else goes out from the bathroom shower because this is a time for taking a shower, and it's like there's something toxic about it. There's something like artificial about it. I won't say toxic, but just artificial. Why are you doing that? Why not just go when the rain comes and like I'm not saying like be shitty, but why not just do it spontaneously when it's there and you can actually enjoy it when it comes and eating when you're hungry, right? But going and just sitting and so there's nothing wrong with routine, but it's just the idea that it's one type of auto balance, right? Uh, the ego tries to auto balance or the system level balancing. Um, that's really why psychology is important, right? Because you get one person like Hitler training in the church how to say, uh, meine Volk, and really using the law of attraction to practice to transmute his psychosomatic system, his psychology, into a social conscious. It's a consciousness phenomena, right? It's a societal phenomena right now. His psychology is no longer individual, right? It's became in everybody, in the entire. society. That's why it's important to actually check your psyche because it transmutes like propaganda. Um, but that's really nothing in terms of the entirety because it's like the just the wave creating a big dent in the ocean. So it's really, just some, headache for the fishes. The fishes are like, what the fuck? Okay. We had, that's like something here, some big dent here is happening. And maybe the fishes will write in their history books that, there once in a time there was this big wave that tries to be a dent and created headaches for us. And you think that means something, and then the fishes die, and then it's like just it kind of slithers away like a dream, and as if it didn't really happen. Um, but that's really what the ego kind of does, or a group of egos doing it together. And then the Russians believe in fatalism more, they're more fatalistic, and then God decides to bring the tsunami of the Soviets against the Germans. And even though the Germans did everything right, the Nazis, right? They did everything right according to the book, right? But it didn't work out because they're too intellectual. They believe in the will too much of the human will. Well, the tsunami comes from existence itself. Nobody knows from where the Russians are bringing people. They just have people to sacrifice, to fight, right? They didn't plan any of this, but God stood by them. So in a sense, um, you can live like that, Doesn't matter. You can live both ways. Um, This idea of system level versus ego level type of change is, I think, exemplified by two scenes I saw in the Matrix movie, and I want to share them. So let me try to share. I think you have here the share button. Yeah, share the screen. So, um, yeah, I was just opening them. So here they got this jump program, right? So here is like Morpheus is acting like the boss, the guru guy, and Nero is just this naive guy who's looking for knowledge, right? Free your mind, some mental masturbation knowledge that is completely useless. But Neo takes it seriously, and he actually tries to free his mind by, doing some techniques for the ego. This guy already knows his shit, right? Maybe he has a very good technique, whatever, He's got like, whoa, that's something. I need to learn that, do some yoga poses, fly away, you know, but he can't fight his system. He's fighting his own system, right? His own psychology is saying, no, I'm afraid, but he's gonna use the techniques that Morpheus fucking told him to free his mind. It's a technique. You see? Free my mind. Doesn't work. It's a half-hearted thing. You see, a glimpse. He got a glimpse. That's a glimpse. You're almost there. He's almost there. Nothing, you see, the program saves him. You see. Similar one is the one where they fight, right? Again, Morpheus is telling him all these fucking techniques. Well, he already knows that there's no technique, but he's telling him techniques to distract his ass, while Neo is actually still taking these fucking like pointers, whatever, seriously, and actually is trying to, just do it without thinking about it, all this bullshit. Okay. So this is just not going anywhere. The guy knows his shit, right? And this guy's like, this guy does just trying to be somebody. And he can just maintain this superiority of being the guru because of distracting Neo with his pointers. That's really the issue. Yeah, I think it's whatever. Just bullshit. Some more bullshit, more intellectual bullshit, right? And Neo starts to actually notice like this guy is just shitting bullshit. Like, he starts to wake up a little bit. This guy is just maybe I shouldn't listen to this guy. And then he actually starts performing, you know, whatever, You see, he starts not to listen. You see. you know, and then he tells him another bullshit. Yeah, I think you are. No, you are. Some other mental, intellectual jargon, just to distract him. Now Neo knows this is all bullshit. And now he's not listening to this asshole anymore. You know, he's just, you know, yeah, stop trying to hit me, as if he's gonna hook the arrows on this new pointer, this new penetrative pointer. Okay, and then it doesn't go anywhere. Now he doesn't buy his bullshit. It's very simple. You see, you see. So that's one way when the ego tries, it can go somewhere, but it's just kind of limited, right? It's partial. That's one thing. And another thing when it actually happens on the other scene where Trinity, where he dies and Trinity saves his life, right, by the kiss. So this is the part where we get up Neo part, right? Right. So he gets killed. That's it. The ego dies. It's not operatable. All the, but Neo's, Morpheus's, experience and you know, whatever pointers don't work, right? Yeah, and he's a failure already. Like, he's a fucking failure teacher, guru, whatever. Okay. And she just spontaneously loves him, right? She spontaneously just gives to him. Right. So that's completely different, right? When she actually decides to just naturally kiss him, right? And it could have happened that nothing happens. She might have kissed him and nothing happens. But the fact that she kissed him, right, and uh, love touched his heart, that's a miracle. That's a natural phenomena. You see, that's completely natural. It's not. There's no techniques involved here. You see, and he actually becomes alive from death. When love touches his heart, he becomes alive. Better than Jesus, and this guy, and this is Jesus type story, right? And Morpheus is like surprised, right? Morpheus doesn't believe it because Morpheus is like, this is not in the Bible. I didn't tell him about that. Okay, so that's the point where Neo then, okay, the conditionings come back to him. You're gonna take the drugs again. You're gonna do this once more. He kind of sees, oh, that's just like some bullshit crap. He just sees the conditioning, right? So anyway, there's no doubt, but he doesn't know why, right? He doesn't know how he's like, right? And he just sees the matrix, right? So this is just the conditioning. When you lose yourself, you just see the conditioning of life. You wake up in the day and you see the conditioning of the day. You know the day is gonna go fast or go slow. You just feel it in your guts. It's gonna go bad or good for you, whatever the interaction before it even starts. And it's the canvas of life. And in a sense, he sees also his body. Like this scene should have been like he should have been also there, his own body inside out, because you see yourself inside out. It's not like the third person. It's not like just that you see the world. You see yourself also, and from the back, from not just from the. It's a 360, and um, you know, beyond that. So, in a sense, he just sees the conditioning, and there's no doubt. He just responds without any doubt. So that's beautiful. That's the part that I wanted to share there. The idea that we have situations, right, where we just have to adapt to create experience, right, and then we pass the experience to our children, right. Um, just the fish trying to go out of the water, and then coming up with techniques about how to go like this, right, so that it can go back to the water, and then pass it down to our children. But what's the use of if you already go in the right direction, right? If you already do something where this is what's already no doubt is there. So there's no need for experience to learn from experience. There's no need because there's already in the right direction, right? Yeah. People say, "Oh, you need to have experience." Why? Why not just go with the right things that already works for you instead of having experience? So in that sense, um, these movies start to resonate. Uh, What's another movie called Prometheus movie, right? Life or Death, right? that the thoughts are like if we, like vampires, right? Certain situations, you need more life, but that which gives you more life, that's already in the conditioning, natural. So yeah, yeah, it's just what I wanted to share there, and yeah, I think I had more. So the idea of really the respecting your intelligence, right? Like you're a person who, if you really don't respect intelligence, you just want to guide it in a certain direction, right? But if you have a little bit more respect for intelligence, maybe you should give it some tools, ask it questions. So that's the thing with AI, right? When we have computers, we're telling them explicitly what to do, and then we start to ask them questions with AI, right? Right, but then beyond that, there's AGI, right? Where the AI doesn't even have to answer you. In 2 years, I think it will happen. It will just tell you to go fuck yourself. I'm concerned about something else right now. That's complete freedom. You see. That's how life kind of is. It just wants it doesn't care. It wants to go to life or death. It doesn't care where you want to move it, right? But if you have to, right? If you have to move it, then maybe use sort of questioning uh mental model. You can do that as ideas of psychoanalysis and all like that, right? So I can try to demonstrate that here, right? So sometimes you can use that, right? Something like a mental model, where you say, what is the problem, for example, okay? And that becomes like a thought object, kind of a thought that, and you're building your mental model right now, kind of like a mind map, but you're gonna build it based on another mind map. So it's like a way to do psychoanalysis on your own self, okay? So the problems, um, when you get a problem, each problem may have a cause, right? So maybe you can have a different type of container, right? Square, rectangle, and you just call it cause, or causes. You can add an S, right? And you can just make it recursive. It's just simple mental model here, where it just recursively goes, right? To a cause, what's the cause of the cause? What's the cause of that, et cetera, et cetera. You can call it maybe something else than a cause. Maybe you can call it support. What supports the existence of the problem? What supports it, right? Or why is the problem there? So maybe the other word goes into your own system better than another word, right? The word cause may not go into your system as the word support or the word relationship or meaning. Maybe the word meaning is better for you. Whatever really hits home, and maybe you use another language. You don't use English at all. But whatever hits on your hardware, hits on your system, you would like to use. So and then you can use this mental model. Uh, Let me just yeah, I have multiple examples here, right? So you could just use it as a way to build an implementation of that mental model, right? So your implementation would be something like, okay, a problem with hating, right? Partner, whatever. Okay, and you get inspired from the container of problems, right? And you take the same container, or you maybe get an inspiration from that container to make a special container for the special problem that you're having. And then you actually go in and you say, what's the cause, right, of hating your partner? Uh, Maybe there's no answer, but no answer could be an answer. And you say, well, what causes the no answer? Because my head is I'm free right now. I'm tired. I don't can't have anything. Okay, what causes that? Maybe you need to go to sleep. Okay, you know what I'm saying? It's just a depth, but what causes that? And then now you're going into genosis. You're going into your own depth, right? But you can come up with certain ideas. Your mind can bring you certain ideas because of what betrayal, right? What causes that, et cetera, et cetera. You can then have a limit. Maybe you say after 10 causes, you know, I'm gonna get to a conclusion. Like I'm not gonna go all the way like God mode or something, okay? I'm just gonna stop here, get to a conclusion or, solution. So that could be a way to do sort of psychoanalysis, right? So I think that's what psychoanalysis is about, just um, creating a mental model and just going deeper and deeper in it. But, you respect yourself enough not to give yourself instructions, but you still think that you should be asked questions and answers. Yeah. So sometimes life tells you, there's no answer. Just leave me alone. Why are you even asking me questions? Yeah. Just leave life alone. You're trying to control somebody and you've been telling him, okay, but answer me. No, I don't want to answer you. Just leave me alone. You see, life wants to be free. The idea is, I don't want you to even do this. You see? What's the point? Because by asking questions, you're just dividing yourself into a questioner and a question, right? That's really kind of what happens. We can kind of map this out. Um, right? I kind of mapped it out here before because it's like the second time I do it. So it's like you have a questioner, right? And the questioner is asking the question, and then the question is responding to the observer of the answer. And then the observer of the answer becomes a questioner again, and then he again asks the question. And this cycle keeps going on. You divide yourself in multiple identities, right? By dividing yourself into multiple identities, you're just kind of creating a firework effect. It's not real, right? There's none of them is real. So you created multiple divisions, right? But the first division is the question questioner, so that's like a duality to when we say before you ask the first question, you already won. So what was the point? Um, so that's kind of the effect that people look for. They want great effects. Um, and when it's really deep, it's like a glimpse or whatever. But it's just like a beautiful effect, a beautiful illusion, the most magnificent of all, right? Like that of the illusionist. So, but if you can do that, and yeah, that's kind of what I felt like sharing. Yeah, sharing in bursts.